Hi, how are you today? In the previous video, we have added a security and a few transactions for it. We added all these transactions manually. You may have asked by yourself that for your real portfolio, it may be too tedious to insert all your data one by one into the system. You may have tens or even hundreds of transactions. Investophilia has a solution for it. The system lets you import or export all your data in one go. Let's see how we can do it. For that, I have prepared a scenario. Let's say we have bought 100 shares of Coca-Cola Company on 5th of January 2021, and we have received 8 times dividends from the company for each quarter. So altogether, 8 times we have received dividends. We would like to add these dividend transactions in one go with a single click into the system. First of all, we need to have a security. That I have added. You see, KO is the symbol, and that is for Coca-Cola Company. I have also added a single transaction, and that is our buy transaction. You see here 3 icons. One is for adding the transaction, is this plus icon. And beside it, we have 2 other icons. One is for importing transactions from an external file, and that is what we want to use. And beside it is downloading transactions information. Before I click here and insert our data, I need to show you how the data should look like, what you need to have in your text file in order to import it into the system. So the best way for it is to first download transaction information to see how your data should look like, and then you can change this file and do your import. So the first step would be always to download a few transactions that you have manually added to the system. That will greatly help you. So I click here. And as I click here in the download transactions information, you see that my data have been downloaded into my downloads folder. And we see it here. So if I click here and show the data, let me make the window smaller for you to see, and you see that we have those information. We see we have altogether 4 transactions, 3 for the Tesla transaction from the previous video, and 1 the buy transaction for Coca-Cola Company. And you see all relevant data. Let's go one by one. The first one is just the item, is the number, is not important. The second one is the serial number, and serial number of the transaction is important in case you want to update something for that transactions. In our case, we want to add new transactions. That means we don't need any serial number here, so we should leave this serial number field empty. And then we have the security, and in the security column, you should write the symbol of your security. How do you know that this symbol is the correct one? You go back to the system, you go to the securities tab, and there you also find these import and export functionalities, and I click on download securities information, and I export all the security data, and you see it here. So it gets the date, and you see in the title of the file securities. So I show it, and here we see the symbol of the security and its name. That means the symbol TL0.FRK belongs to the Tesla Incorporation, and the symbol KO belongs to Coca-Cola Company. So with that, I know which one is which, and when I go back here to my transactions data, I see that TL0.FRK is a transaction belonging to my Tesla security. The next one is the security currency, and security currency should not change. You can just keep it as it is. And then the other one is the price per share. Price per share is important in calculating the price, but not always. If you leave it empty, the system will calculate it for you, but you can also add it to the system if you want. And then the other one is the date, which is very important because this is the date of your transaction. And then comes the transaction type. Here you should write down the correct transaction type. So in this case, we see split, increase, sell, and buy. For us is dividends and coupon. We will see how it should look like. And then the other one is the number of shares. We see number of shares. For our case, that we want to add only dividends, the number of shares is not that much important, but for the other transaction types, it's important. And then comes the currency for the transaction. Usually the currency for the transaction is equal to the currency of the security, but not always. So then you have two options here to specify them. And then come the important amount values. The first one is the net amount, is the net amount getting out of your bank account or received by you in your bank account. And then come taxes and fees. And finally, you can also add a comment. So here we see all the data that we have in the system. We have exported. And for our import, we need to create a similar text file and then import it to the system. I have already prepared our import file. Here you see ko-trans.trx, and here we see our 8 dividend transactions. Let's see how it looks. So as I said, the serial number for our case is, I leave it empty, is empty because we want to add new transactions to the system. The security symbol is KO, is for Coca-Cola company. The security currency is USD. If I change this security currency to something else, the system will not accept it. You will receive an error. And then comes the date. So for our case, at the end of each quarter, we received our dividends. So then you see all these dates. And then comes our transaction type. As I said, you may not know what to write here. You know it is dividend, so let's say you just write down here dividend, but this should be exactly what you see in the system as a transaction type. So if I go back to the system and yeah, let me just create a transaction. I just click here to add a transaction. And then here we see our transaction types. So you should write down these texts. Anything else would not be accepted by the system. So for our case, we need to write down dividend-coupon. So for our case, just to show you how the system will react, I just put here dividend without any /coupon. So let's see what will happen when I try to import it. And then comes the number of shares. As I said, for our case, the dividend coupon payment number of shares is not important. Comes then the currency of the transaction. I just put the same as the security currency in US dollars. And then we have our net amount, the taxes we have paid for each dividend payment, and the fees that we have paid for each dividend payment. So these are the amounts that, let's say, we have received for our 100 shares. Finally, I have added a small comment to each of those transactions to know what they are. So I put here Q1, Q2, Q3, and then the year, so that in the future we are able to realize what they were actually. Good. Let's import this document to the system. I just click import transactions from external file. I'm in the transactions tab, by the way. So I click here, and then what I need to choose is to choose my file. This is my file. I open it. And once I opened it, you see that the system has received 8 records, so has found 8 records correctly, but an error has occurred. That means we have not imported anything, the system, because there was an error. If there is a single error, nothing will be imported. So everything should be fine, and then you can import. And here you see it says record number 1, so the first record, and as you remember, I just changed the first record. So the first record has dividend, and dividend is not a proper type. And you see acceptable values include these. And as you see here, I can just copy this and paste it there. So I go back to my file, I paste it here. And now everything should look fine because I don't see any other error. Maybe with correcting this error, new errors will appear, but usually it should not be the case. So I just go back to the transactions tab, and now is the time to import our data. Okay, so as I said, you see new errors. So the error is, let's say here, shares should be 0 for transaction type dividend and coupon. And we also see a warning, and that is price per share is omitted. As I said, you can write down the price per share. Here I don't have any column called price per share, so it will be omitted. That means the system will calculate it by itself. So I just don't put it. And then you see here the other one is the share. Actually, this doesn't matter if I'm doing it just to make it beautiful for you to see. So I just changed the number of shares to 0, and we don't have any price per share. So I try again. And I need to click transaction tab again. And let's try again. And here we see another error happening. We see that in record number 8, the last one, there is no price found at the record date 31st of 12th. Price is this has been found for this date, for the 30th of December. Please either correct the record date or add an explicit price. So we don't want to add a price. That means I just change the date. So I click again in the transactions tab, and I guess this would be our final try. So you see 8 records found, 8 records saved successfully, and 0 records updated successfully. That means all of them have been saved, not updated. And we see a warning message for all of our transactions. Now you don't see it here because I need to click on transactions again, and then we find all of these transactions. So I put a filter here to see all of our Coca-Cola transactions. The first one is our buy transaction, which you see at the bottom here. And if I sort it by date, you see the first one is our buy transaction, and then the others are our dividend transactions that we have added to the system. You see that the net amount is correctly imported and the comments have been correctly imported. Let's give it a second try. I go here and click download transaction information. This is our downloaded transaction information, and we see our previous transactions as well as our older transactions that we had in the system. We see all of them. And you also see that the price per share has been calculated for our transactions without price per share. And here we have everything. So I just put one of those. I just copy, let's say, the second. I just deleted it. Let me just delete everything and keep only one of them. So this one. So here we have the serial number 0001. And let me just change the comment. So let's say I want to update my transaction. So I change the comment, and here I type updating it. Let's see if I can import this file and update my transaction. So I go back, and here I click import, and this file I changed, and you see here 1 records found, 0 records saved, but 1 record updated successfully. And if I update this page, we see here updating it. So you see here that this transaction I just updated. So with this, I'm at the end of this video. I hope you can use the import functionality. It also helps you to just save all your transaction data and all your security data in a safe place as a backup for yourself. And also it helps you insert a lot of simulations, a lot of transactions all together into the system. So I wish you the best for adding your transactions into the system. Take care and goodbye. Till next time.